Thank you, Nathan. We're here to speak to you today about immunity and wellness claims and the new product development process. I'm Dr. Susan Hewlings, Director of Scientific Affairs at Nutrasource. I'm also a professor at Central Michigan University and co-founder of Substantiation Sciences. My background is I have a PhD in nutrition, a master's in exercise physiology, and a bachelor's of nutrition. I have over 18 years experience in higher education, as well as I am an author, a medical writer. I published in journals, textbooks, etc., and over 8 years experience in the nutrition and dietary supplements industry. And now I'd like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Douglas Kalman.
Thank you, Dr. Hewlings. I am a Vice President of Scientific Affairs at Nutrasource. I'm also an adjunct assistant professor in the College of Osteopathic Medicine at Nova Southeastern University, where I also am an adjunct teaching sport nutrition in the exercise science department. I'm a co-founder of the International Society of Sports Nutrition and have a PhD in research, a master's in nutrition, registered dietitian, and a bachelor's in food and nutrition. Thank you, Dr. Hewlings. Back to you.
Thank you. I'd like to take just a minute and tell you a little bit about Nutrasource. Nutrasource is a vertically integrated service platform. We help our clients reposition existing products into new categories and gain access to new markets. In addition, we take new products from concept to claim. We offer research and development, regulatory strategies, clinical research, product testing, and health and marketing claims in various markets. We have a presence globally, and we can help you in any market around the globe. We deliver this across our four-pillar service platform, which includes clinical trials, full-service regulatory, bioanalytical, and full-service analytical. Okay, so what I would like to do is give you a place to start. So when you are launching a new product or even repositioning an existing product, there are several things to think of. A place to start, if you will. This is like your map and can be considered like if you were going to write a paper and you'd write a detailed outline. These are important categories and they will, important questions, and will direct the rest of the process. So of course, what is the product is a very important aspect, a very critical question to start with. So that then leads which category you will be in. So it's important to identify the active compounds and the category. From there, what is the correct dosing? And that can be a challenging question to answer and sometimes will require clinical trials or PK studies, or at the very least, pilot studies to initiate. It is also critical to ask what is known about the product, what has already been done. Perhaps there is some existing science in the literature that can be used to help substantiate your claims or can help be used to help you answer these other questions and can help to dictate what research you will do. In addition, it is helpful to understand any historical use. Now, while we can't use solely historical use for substantiation, it is important and can help us to direct our research and literature review because it can help answer the next question. Who is the product intended for? In other words, are we targeting specifically men, women? Are we targeting elderly people? Are we targeting overweight people, healthy people, fit people? And defining that. In addition, depending on your product, there may be a specific age group. There may be a specific region even that you're targeting. That is important to identify. In addition, of course, what does your product do? And how does it do it? So that's the mechanism of action. And you might not know that succinctly right up front. But your other questions will help you to at least narrow it down and get a general idea. So like, what is your mechanism of action? You know, how do we think your product has the effect that you think it might have? Because this then helps to dictate our regulatory pathway. In other words, is this a drug or a supplement? Because if you think that your product, quote, treats a disease or condition, then it needs to go the drug pathway. If you think that your product supports healthy people that haven't been diagnosed with a condition, then it's a supplement. And these are important because, again, they feed back on these other questions. All these questions connect and feed upon each other. And to ask yourself, where is the product made? Where do you want to sell it? Because, of course, every country is going to have slightly different regulatory requirements, regulatory bodies, and, of course, then associated applications. So that's very important. In addition, that will also dictate how it's marketed, but also looking at the next question, which is how it's made. So good manufacturing and quality. And, of course, that'll vary based on the country. And, of course, very importantly, how safe is this? What is out there? Have there been preclinical studies done on this that can contribute to the safety data? Have there been any human safety studies that have been done? So these are all important things to start building the story, if you will, of your product. Because the big question becomes, what do we want to say about this product? So this is really where the science meets the marketing meets the regulatory. While we tend to categorize these into separate areas, they're all connected. And really, the science is what is driving the connection. So it can be really helpful to do a gap analysis and thorough review of the literature by a scientific expert. This will let you know what is out there, what is missing, what's already been said, what preclinical work, maybe what safety work, again, supporting all the questions that we mentioned on the previous slide. So knowing what you want to say also can help drive your research question. So when you design a study, you're basically designing the study to answer a question. The research question is made from your intended marketing claims, yes, and vice versa. So obviously you can't make marketing claims without having a research question that you have some data to help answer. So then, of course, it helps us to identify the appropriate regulatory channel. So now you can kind of see why I'm saying all these things are connected and they all drive each other. But what you want to say about it will help to dictate the study design. So then within those questions and within, keeping all these things in mind, what space are we going to target? Is this product going to be a gut health product, a sports nutrition product, potentially an immunity product? We need to know this because it helps, again, answer the other questions, such as who we're going to target and what dosage, et cetera, et cetera. And we know we usually have a good idea when we get started because our mechanism of action will tell us what it's going to be. So if we're thinking, well, we think that this helps to balance the microbiome, well, then we know we're probably looking at a gut health product. So again, we get back to that search of the scientific peer-reviewed literature because this will help us look to see if we have a product-specific or dose-specific proof of concept study out there, or we have any that are very specific to our claim or specific dose product claim specific. In addition to searching the scientific literature, it's really helpful to search warning letters. The FDA and FTC post for public viewing the warning letters that they've issued to companies that have potentially made some claims that they felt were not okay within the category that they are identified in, and claims that perhaps weren't substantiated. Knowing these can help you also avoid getting one yourself. You certainly don't want one. In addition, case law can help you to answer some of it as well. And safety data can't overstate how important this is and how important this aspect of the peer-reviewed literature can be. So from there, we can fill in the gaps. The lit review becomes our scientific backbone. It helps us identify weaknesses and strengths. Again, to my previous point, it links the science to the marketing, to the regulatory. And we can use, this is our backbone. The reason why I say that is because we can use it then multiple ways. And we can use it for marketing purposes because we take that review and we use it in multiple ways. We use it for white papers. We use it for blogs, website material, substantiation, and it also helps us to direct our research so we know what's out there. But again, you don't want to pinhole it and say, okay, well, this is, why am I doing the lit review? Because this isn't specific about my product. No, but it gives us a backbone and it helps us to tell the story, and we can then use it again and again and again once we have it. So it's a really important aspect of what we're doing here in our quest for product development. So it also helps because to answer these questions, to do the review of the literature, it helps us to do research with a purpose, which is really important because then it is the best use of time and money. To make sure that you have a clear idea of where you are and where you're going will save you money and time, and definitely FTC, FDA warning letters. So clear research questions should be developed and should be clear once you get to this point where you've answered all these questions. It almost brings you right to these questions. So what you want to say, the mechanism of action, what's already in the literature, this will help you establish your marketing and regulatory goals and should lead you right to the study design. So it's all a clear flow. So our study design then becomes our questions that we started out with. Our who, what, when, where, and how much. That then gets translated into our study design. So with this, I pass it off to my colleague.
Thank you, Dr. Hewlings. Now that we have a good idea about how to set up and put together the background and framework for product development, let's talk about immunity. What is the study of immunity? And it's not just who gets sick and who does not. That's too generalizable. So let's take a look at a definition about immunity. The main function of the body's immune system are to protect the host against infection from pathological microorganisms, to clear damaged tissues, and to provide constant surveillance over malignant cells that grow within the body. Additionally, the immune system develops appropriate tolerance to avoid unwanted response to healthy tissues of self or harmless foreign substances. There's considerable heterogeneity among individuals in the vigor of their immunological function, largely owing to factors such as genetics, environment, lifestyle, nutrition, and the interaction of these factors, unquote. Why is this important? Understanding all of the different aspects of immunity and potential avenues of where somebody can interact to support normal immune function helps with product development. So what are some examples that are on the product market and in the scientific literature that illustrate what we call healthy immune studies? And let's talk about this for a second. How do you test immune function in healthy people? If somebody's already healthy, their immune system's already intact. So what would you be doing? Some of this is rhetorical, but also to help the conversation. Do you want to test only innate immunity? Or what about adaptive immunity? Or how about overall immunity? And what about other aspects that surround immunity? Is it just the immune system alone? What about work productivity, meaning like days lost to illness, either missed school or missed work? What about quality of life, where yes, you're functioning, but you're under the weather, but man, you do not feel well whatsoever? These are things to think about that studies can be designed for proper evaluation of, and are that areas within immunity and wellness. So here, I would like to illustrate an example in what's called a healthy subject population of how you can take a healthy subject population, manipulate, if you will, their immune system or immunity, and look at whether a nutritional interaction helps support immune function. In this case, we took a group of physically active people 16 active adults and stressed their immunity by over-exercising them. So we looked at resting immunity, meaning if they just took placebo or took product, what was the effects on general immunity? Then we put them under a stressor condition where we over-exercise them, which then causes your body to have a suboptimal immune response. And therefore, you could see whether a nutritional agent helps support immune system during stress. And so here, this was a very interesting way of looking at an inactivated bacillus coagulans. And we were able to determine that there was some immunosupportive and anti-inflammatory type activity going on. So this was immune support and potential anti-inflammatory type of support in normal people that have a stressed immune system. Our next example of a different type of study design that looks at maybe at something deeper. So here, yes, an exercise stressor was used to stress the immune system, but not only were immune parameters looked at, but so were biomarkers of inflammation and, of course, exercise performance in this study, and here delayed onset muscle soreness ratings. It's interesting to note, just as an aside for a second, that the cytokines, which are so thought of as just being pro-inflammatory, tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin 10, interleukin 6, interleukin 1 beta, these all also have overlapping functions, not only on inflammatory pathways and activity in the body, but also our immune response, different aspects of the monocyte and other aspects of immunity that respond to a challenge. So there's a crossover. This study looked at the linkage in between immunity and inflammation, which is another way that you could look at in a healthy population. Now here's another example of a study that looked at a potential, or what was then viewed as a potential immune supporting ingredient, but instead of looking at the effects on the immune system, more the outcome of the study was looking at how did intervention with this nutritional product during cold and flu season affect this cohort of people in terms of loss of work productivity. Who missed more, if anybody, days of work, so they had to have time off, or days of school if they were in college. And this was an interesting way to look at, because if you have a day of lost productivity, your employer, just like the coach on an athletic or a sports team, an injured athlete and a sick employee are both not really good for the team because they're not doing anything for the team on game day. So this was looking at it from a productivity standpoint, and so a nutritional benefit for that. One of the things that we have to discuss is of course, dietary supplements are not supposed to be marketed, proclaimed, or anything to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any disease or condition. However, that does not stop science from being allowed to see whether a nutritional agent may have an effect on a disease or a condition state. So from a scientific curiosity standpoint, if you will, there was a study that was undertaken that looked at methylsulfonomethane, or MSM, and what would be the effect on allergic rhinitis after an allergen challenge, meaning that allergic response after giving somebody an allergen challenge under standard conditions. Now that alone, this does not mean that MSM could be marketed for allergies. No, not at all. That would be a disease or a condition claim. But this was where science was just looking at something deeper or different than dietary supplement. So this would not be something that would be a good example to do and then try to market it in the dietary supplement world. This is just for the sake of science. So what to avoid? Avoid overt disease claims. Don't even mention disease or a disease state. I'm talking about even in the study protocol, because a protocol will have a quick review or introduction, review of literature or introduction. And you should stay away from that, because dietary supplements, nutritional agents are not meant to diagnose, treat, prevent, cure any disease or condition, right? So you don't want to use implied disease claims. You want to maybe stay away from therapeutic or boost. One cannot boost the immune system. It's not an engine like a car where you put a turbo boost. We can help maintain normal function during times of stress, whether that stress is bacterial stress, a viral stress, an emotional stress, a physical stressor, and so forth. So we can help maintain proper immune function. So watch what you link to and how you link your marketing and advertising to published studies on an ingredient that you key in on or on your finished product. And make sure even in your ads and marketing, if you're using a proper reference list to support your claims, that you're not using studies that were done on disease or condition states, because that actually is running afoul. Your educational material matters also. In third-party handouts, talking about, not third-party handouts, handouts that might be given out, let's say at the health or food store that are made out of your company that then they give to the customer, those too are considered an extension of marketing, and you have to stay the same course. So here we know, this is just an example sharing with you, during this worldwide pandemic of coronavirus, yes, there's been a lot of FDA and FTC action in the United States on companies that are jumping on the bandwagon of fear of the pandemic, and know that immune products are selling everywhere. And so this is something to be concerned with. So be aware of what the FTC are telling people, just to make sure it doesn't cross over to something that you're thinking of saying. So to summarize, we believe that this brief seminar helped answer the who, what, when, where, and how questions, and meaning that why they're so important. So you could critically connect science through the product development process to what you end up wanting to message and communicate to your potential or targeted market. Again, we cannot emphasize enough the thorough review of the literature to learn what you know and learn what you don't know. Because what you don't know can be just as important as what you know, because that unveils opportunity or risk. And it is good to not just, oh, they're using this product, this is a great seller, let's just mimic it. No, bring in some expert consultants, or within your own business framework, so that you can have the educated insight into product development from an ingredient choice perspective. So with that, Dr. Hewlings is going to be able to remain with you to answer questions. I have to unfortunately step off right now, but I greatly thank you for your time, and we welcome to interact with you. This is how we can be reached. Thank you again.
Okay, hi everybody, and hopefully the storm will hold off here behind me. It won't be too loud with thunder. Anyway,
yeah, I noticed that you've had to move, but I guess that's also because of some of the storm going on. But
yes, I'm sorry. A change of background. That's actually the workmen that are inside my house. So we've all been working from home, so we all know that there's challenges sometimes, right?
Sure. Yeah, I've had changing light here as the weather's changed and it's become the evening as well. So I apologize for some of the different backgrounds that people are seeing.
Well, thanks for having us, and thanks for allowing Nutrasource, Doug and I representing Nutrasource here today. I did see there were some questions in the Q&A. Sure. Did you want me to address those first, or?
Yep. So I'll come to you and I'll ask you. First of all, the first question we had in was about where people can find some of these resources. So EU health claims. I can answer that and say yes, there is a database of approved claims that people can go and check. Sue will probably tell you a little bit more about that, and also probably expand on where people can find these warning letters that you were talking about as well.
Yeah, and I did provide you some links in the PowerPoint. So the warning letter that Doug had displayed with the coronavirus warning letters has a link for you, so you can click on that, or you can really just Google FDA, FTC warning letters. They are publicly, available, easy to see, and they actually are a really good idea to look at, because they give you an idea of what the FDA and the FTC are looking at. And what I found interesting in looking at a lot of the recent ones, which of course a lot of them did pertain to coronavirus, was that they are paying attention to social media more than you may, a lot of people I think thought that they were. And a lot of the red flags that brought those warning letters out were actually from things that were done via Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and these sort of things. So it's just interesting to note that. that link is there. In addition, someone asked about health claims. At least in the US, most of what Doug and I were focusing on today were really structure function claims, and they don't require pre-market approval in the US, so that there's no like website where you can see what's been approved. But certainly, like we said, you can look at warning letters, you can look at case law to see what you shouldn't do. And you can also, as we also mentioned, hire scientific experts to substantiate any claims that you would like to make. If, though, you are interested in a health claim or a nutrient content claim, again, those are available via the FDA's website. I don't have the link on me, just since we didn't really focus on health claims or nutrient content claims, but I'd be happy to provide that to anybody after the talk if anybody was interested.
Absolutely. And the same goes for the EFSA database. I mean, a simple Google of EFSA claims database should bring it up, but we can absolutely provide links, Nutrasource or even the hosts here, you know, where we can provide those sort of links to people for sure. We don't have that much longer for questions, but one thing I wanted to ask you was to ask about really where people should begin the process. I know Doug, yourself and Doug sort of gave a really great overarching sort of tour of all the different processes, but you know, say I've just got a great idea, you know, what's just step one? What do I do?
Well, that you just did step one. A
Yeah.
great idea is a fantastic place to start.
Great.
And then I think step two, yeah. And I think step two then becomes, what, you know, is there any, what's there for my idea? In other words, is there any science that can support my idea? And what do I need to do? So what's there and what's missing are kind of question 2 and 3, maybe step 2 and 3. I mean, what's there, what's missing? And so of what's there, what claims can I make? And so what claims should I try to make, or do I want to try to make, which again becomes where everybody works together, right? Regulatory, marketing, science. Okay, so if these are what we really all agree we need to make, what do we need to do scientifically to back that up? And if we all agree, okay, are we going to try to make a health claim? Are we going to try to do that? Or are we going to go structure function? That'll help too. So again, having a good rapport and a really great communication among those 3 arms of the business, of the regulatory, science, and marketing, I cannot overstress. Because I think really in the companies that we've worked with, Doug and I have worked with, and in looking at a lot of warning letters and stuff, that's kind of where nobody means to do that stuff most of the time. And I think a lot of times it's just little slight errors. So having a well-trained marketing sales staff and everybody being connected and communicating can really prevent a lot of it.
Most of the time, right? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, sure. I'm sure there are people out there that, you know, just try to see how far they can push the envelope. But I like to believe the glass is half full, and I think really it's
I think we all do, for sure.
honest mistakes most of the time, and we can prevent those honest mistakes by doing due diligence that we're discussing here today.
I have one final question, and that's relating to, say, product-specific data versus ingredient-specific data. So if you're, you know, coming up with it through the new product development process, how much can you lean heavily on existing data for specific ingredients, and how much do you have to try and build data for your own specific formulation?
That's a really good question. And people ask that all the time. There's no concrete answer. I wish I could give you a link for that answer. But it's really on a case-by-case basis. And it kind of has to do with how many, all the ingredients in your formula, you know, your recipe, so to speak, and what each one of them says. If you have a multi-ingredient formula, it always is best to have at least one good study on the combination, right? On the things, on the multi-ingredient formula. And then you can use the information about the individual ingredients as part of your dossier and part of your supported substantiation, but it's always going to be better to have a final product. But that being said, if you are using if your product is an ingredient and it's not really have a lot added to it or anything like that, then you can rely more on the existing information that maybe comes from the ingredient company or comes from the existing literature. So again, it's not as black and white as it seems like it should be. But again, all the steps we mentioned in the talk can go into that to help you make sure you have a solid thing there.
Thank you so much. I'm really sorry that we don't have any time left to go through any more questions, but anyone who has submitted a question and we haven't got to, we will put those to Dr. Hewlings and to Dr. Kalman, who unfortunately had to drop off.
Everybody has my email, and they're welcome to email me.
For
so,
sure.
Yep.
So we'll put those questions, and like you say, we've got the emails. And also, please do remember that you can contact Nutrasource through the book a meeting feature in the live program document as well. But for now, I'd like to say once again, thank you to Dr. Douglas Kalman for joining us, and Dr. Susan Hewlings for the presentation and for the live Q&A. And we've got a cat over your shoulder as well, which is a real treat.
Got it. 6 rescue cats running around here. So yeah, so come and say hi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Susan.
thank you, everybody, very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.